By the time a presidential election is 8 months in the rearview mirror, the yard signs and passions are usually long put away, but not so with 2020. Maybe you've seen Trump banners in your neighborhood or driving through other neighborhoods. Well, the signs hanging outside one particular house in Roselle Park, New Jersey, have landed the homeowner in court. No, that wouldn't be the "don't blame us, we voted for Trump" one. Among the 10 banners hung by 54-year-old Andrea Dick outside the house where she lives, which is owned by her mother, were ones reading "Biden blows, Biden sucks," and 3 that say "F Biden," except that the F-bomb was spelled out. One local code enforcement officer cited her mother for violating an ordinance prohibiting the display or exhibition of obscene material. Ms. Dick was given a few days to remove the 3 F-word banners, and when she did not, she was given a summons to appear in court. Last week, a judge gave them 1 week to remove the 3 signs deemed offensive or face fines of $250 a day. Noting the proximity of the house to a local school, the judge ruled that, quote, freedom of speech is not simply an absolute right, also saying there are alternative methods for the defendant to express her pleasure or displeasure with certain political figures in the United States. While noting the case is not a case about politics, it is a case pure and simple, said the judge, about language. But the ACLU thinks otherwise and is helping Andrea Dick and in her appeal against paying the daily fines. Senior supervising attorney at the American Civil Liberties Union of New Jersey said this, quote, the town, the government is obligated to abide by the Constitution, and the Constitution doesn't limit our right to criticize government officials based on the use of profanity. Indeed, the judge's ruling would seem to conflict with the 1971 Supreme Court decision of Cohen v. California, in which a teenager wearing a jacket with "F the draft" on it was found to be within his First Amendment rights. Here's what Andrea Dick herself told me on my SiriusXM radio program this week.
My opinion, it's a political thing here in town.
What do you mean?
That's all it is. It's a Democratic town. The mayor's Democrat. I had Trump signs up when Trump was running back in 2020. And I had Biden little lawn signs. No one said a word to me about those. Now, all of a sudden, because I have them plastered on my fence, Biden, and he is, yes, our president. He's not my president. Yes, he is our president. But now they have an issue with it.
Joining me now to discuss is the mayor of Roselle Park, New Jersey, Joseph Signorello III. Mayor, nice to see you. She's laying it off on you and your partisanship. What's your response?
So thank you for having me on, Michael. I think it's interesting because I think it's a contradictory statement in and of itself, right? So the fact of the matter is there has been political signage up for the last 2 years, pro-Trump signage. The only time code enforcement saw it fit to make any citation was when the profane language came up. Look, this is not about politics. This is not about right or left. As mayor in a place like New Jersey, in a small town, potholes aren't Republican or Democrat, but profanity certainly, doesn't have a political tilt one way or the other either. So, we actually, just to give a little background context, we used to have an ordinance on the books where you couldn't have political signage up, I want to say 2 months before an election. We revoked that ordinance because we believe in free speech, and we've let this residents have their free speech on politics. It was brought to my attention, and as a responsive mayor, when that foul language came up, it was an issue for code enforcement to address.
She also told me that you really have to be looking for the sign. I haven't driven on, I think it's Willow Avenue in your town, but she said, it's set back from the road and really nobody even can see it. True or not true?
I would say not true, but even if that were the case, right? So we enforce codes not just for passerbys, not just for the people or the kids who might see it on the way to school, but I mean also for the neighbors, right? It's I'll give you a perfect example, and I had this conversation with somebody who I've been getting quite a few calls recently to criticize my or the borough's view on this. And I talked to a gentleman in Cincinnati and told him, look, we have noise enforcement issues all the time, right? So it's about quality of life, not just within the borough, but immediately around that borough too, or around that residence too.
Mayor, is this a hill to die on? In other words, I don't know much about the budget of Roselle Park, but I can only imagine now you're going to have to hire lawyers and you're going to be fighting the ACLU. And so maybe the better path is just ignore her and eventually she'll take down the signs.
I think it's a really good point, Michael. It's certainly not a hill to die on, and I think that being a small borough going against the ACLU is certainly not always an enviable position. The fact of the matter is we did our job enforcing the code, and I don't think it's right in any situation, especially a code that predates me, to pick and choose where that code's applied. We won in municipal court. It will go to a superior court, and quite frankly, if we lose in a superior court, I don't think that there's any desire for anybody to bring this to the Supreme Court. I think that if a superior court should rule against us, we'll certainly look to change the ordinance, because as much outrage as there is in Roselle Park, and I can assure you there is, with both Republicans and Democrats, we need to be pragmatic, and we are City Hall, so saying you can't fight City Hall isn't exactly appropriate here, but fighting City Hall in this case is a little bit tough.
Mayor Joseph Signorello III, thanks so much for being here. Good luck with this.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you, Michael.
Let's see what you're saying on my SMERCONISH Twitter and Facebook pages. I don't see any problems with that sign, and I'm not sure I'd have a problem with one that said the F-bomb Biden. What happened to freedom of expression? Have we raised generations of people who get lost in their feelings? Teaching moment here. Oh man, Tim, so much I want to say to that. The first point is maybe the F-bomb has lost its resonance. Who thinks fornication when you hear or say that word? Not me. In fact, Bono got an award a couple of years ago, and I think he was presented the award, and he said, "Oh, this is effing brilliant." And then part of his defense was to say, "Well, I didn't mean that. I just meant it as, I was excited." How would you feel if you were the next door neighbor, though? What happens to the property values? And probably 40% of you are saying right now, "Oh, the property values, they would go up in that instance." I spoke to this woman. She's loving this. I think that the best course for the mayor is just ignore it.